Hey folks, this video is going to talk quickly about manipulating type in Photoshop. I tend to be more of a Photoshop guy than an Illustrator guy oftentimes, and this presents some ideas that allow Photoshop to be a little bit more like Illustrator. I think it's a good companion to the video called Shaping Textfields in Photoshop. Adrian Taylor had some ideas in a very similar vein, so check that one out too. But essentially what I want to talk about is shaping text. In Photoshop, if you have your text tool, oftentimes I used to find myself going to this warp text dialog and trying different tweaks. No matter what you choose in here, it's going to be actually distorting your letter forms. So even if you go down and make it a very subtle effect, there's still some distortion that happens there. So there's a different way to approach this. Let's say, for an example, you take your ellipse tool and you draw a circle. If you hold down Shift, obviously it'll become a perfect circle. Your classic shape in Photoshop. But if you switch over to your text tool and you mouse over this path, obviously the path has been selected here. It's kind of an active state. So if you, in this state, mouse over at the text tool, you'll notice the icon change, indicating that you can type along this path. If you move inside, it's saying you can type within this shape. But if you actually click on the path, what this does is it sort of hijacks this path right off this shape. And depending on where you click, that'll be the starting point of where your text begins. I've got a center alignment here, so this will be the center of where my type is. So if I start typing here, you can see that it flows right around that. And as soon as you do that, as soon as you complete that text editing, again, you can see a new layer has been created, and this text now is hooked to a circle path. And if you would take your text tool again and click there and start typing, it's going to continue all the way around that circle. So I'm going to delete that real quick just because it's easier to demo this way, but let me zoom in and show you how to manipulate this once it's been created. If you go back to your text tool, the only thing you'd be able to do is click here and edit the actual type. So what you're going to want to do is switch over to the path selection tool, or I tend to stay with the direct selection tool. But if you come here now and you start coming in on this copy, you'll notice an icon that allows you at this center point where I click to begin with to change where that center point lies. And depending on where you pull it, you can pull it inside the circle or you can pull it outside the circle and move it around. And that changes the center point or the starting point. There's also some other manipulation that can happen. Essentially there's two endpoints that are presented as well. And this allows you to change where those endpoints are. So this is the beginning. If you go down and grab the other end, you can change the constraints of this text. So if I was to move this in on the word there, at a certain point there would disappear. It does do it word by word and not letter by letter. But that way you can really shape and manipulate this text. And then again, move it around the circle to a point that you like. This works on circles, rounded rectangles, even stars. I've noted that hard corners are not real attractive. It tends to work better with nice smooth curves. So one more example here is that, again, the whole concept is typing on paths. So you could create a custom path with the pen tool, any curve that you can imagine. And again, with that path active, if you switch to the text tool and move on to that path, it's the same exact concept, except it's just your own custom shape. Same rules apply. There's a center point here that you can move and manipulate. There's end kind of constraints that you can change. If you change the alignment of this copy, it's going to move it along in that space that you created. If that makes sense. So that being said, I can see a lot of opportunities and a lot of potential there. So if we were to want to create copy around this bar, I would tend to want to use a circle shapes to make sure that it matches exactly, which is what I've done. You could also draw a custom path around this area, but essentially what I've done is created, just in terms of brevity, created two pieces of text. One of them is hooked to the outside of a circle of this diameter, and the other one is hooked to the inside of a circle of a wider diameter, because I wanted the words to be right side up. So those two circles, those two layers, allow me to create a nice seal there. So I hope that helps. There's obviously a lot you can do with that, and this little limited demo with this graphic may not be super inspirational, so I wanted to leave you with something that might get the creative juices flowing and send you on your way. So there you go. Look at the impact you can make with your newly found skill.